One shell, one chance. They say if it's not in the history books, it never happened. If there's not written, documented evidence, it's likely not real. I say history doesn't write itself in books. It writes itself in brass, spent cartridges, and dirt. Somewhere in the Florida mountains of New Mexico, in the early 1950s, someone found a shell casing from a brass-jawed 44 cal rimfire Winchester. Tucked inside was a rolled-up cigarette paper. Scrawled in the hand of a man who thought he might die, "This is our last shell, about 10 Indians left. Our chances look slim, but we're going to take a chance." Signed, William Bonney. They call it a mystery. They call it likely, because I know Billy carried that rifle. Frank Collins said so in first-hand account. Met him at a cattle camp, old hat, black neckerchief, 44 rimfire rifle slung over his shoulder, a 44 cal pistol on his belt. That's not myth. That's recorded memory. And here's what I know. No one writes a message like that for fun. No one fires off a shell, rolls up a dramatic note, and tosses it down a canyon just to fool someone 100 years later. You do that when you think you're done, when you're down to the last bullet, and maybe it's too late to tell your story. But if Billy did make it out of there alive, maybe he told someone. "We got hemmed in by Apaches once, up in the Florida mountains." And maybe that's all he said, because when you live through something like that, you don't turn it into a saga. And you sure don't say, "Oh yeah, I left a little note behind in a shell casing." That wouldn't have mattered anymore, because he made it out. And once you walk away, a note, scribbled in desperation, no longer matters. Hell, maybe he even forgot he did it. Maybe it was just something he did in that final silence, sitting behind a rock, listening to the echo of his last shot roll through the canyon. I can imagine the kid drawing his Bowie knife, wiping the blade once across his pants, thinking, "If they come, I'll give them the cold steel." No bullets left, no backup coming. Just him and man's oldest tool, a blade, and the stillness pressing in. He knew the cavalry wasn't coming, and if by some twist they did, they wouldn't know whether to shoot him or the Apaches. Maybe he pulled out the last of his tobacco, rolled a cigarette by instinct, and realized he had one paper left. So he tore it out and scribbled down the truth and slid it into that spent shell. Not because he thought anyone would find it, just because there was nothing else left to do while he waited. Because maybe that was the only thing left to do. There was nothing else. He'd ejected his last round from his Winchester. Maybe he had no more tobacco. Maybe he used his last paper. And maybe by some luck the Apaches didn't attack again. Maybe it got dark. Maybe he slipped away. And when he did, he would have felt that old familiar burn in his chest. The exhilaration of having cheated death one more time, that feeling wasn't bravado, it wasn't pride. It was the rush of blood draining back into your extremities, and a deep, shaky breath, that tremble in your arms and legs, and gratitude that you were alive. He knew that feeling. He'd felt it with Joe Grant in Fort Sumner. He felt it when he killed Wendy Cowhill, when he escaped from the courthouse, when he got creased in the shootout with Sheriff Brady, when he faced down Buckshot Roberts over and over again. And that little note, that message in the shell, he never thought of it again. Because when you're still breathing, you don't cling to what you almost lost. You just keep living, and it's no surprise. It wasn't documented for posterity.